everybody, and welcome again to Nerd to the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how are you doing this week?
I am okay. I am just trying to make it to the Christmas break where I can have a few days off work. Because I don't know if you know anything about the medical industry out there, you guys, but I work in a hospital now, and this time of year is really... Oh boy, it's a rough day at work every day until the end of the year because everybody's met their deductible and decided they wanted to have surgery.
Oh, see, I thought you were gonna talk about like the flood of people coming into the emergency room from getting in fights on Black Friday over Tickle Me Elmo or whatever the hot toy is this year.
No, but you know what's funny is every time there's like any sort of inclement weather of any kind, my boss is like, "Hey, make sure you stock up on whatever." And then he'll explain why, and it's usually like, hey, there's supposed to be some ice. Make sure you stock up on these certain types of like wrist splints for all the people who are gonna fall and break their wrists and stuff. And I'm like, these are problems I never had to think about at any of my old jobs. Like the shit that people are gonna get into. So, but right now we are just so overwhelmed with cases. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's like a global supply shortage all over the place on everything imaginable. So me, as somebody who has to order things for a living, I could have just worked in retail and it would have still been the same amount of stress.
Yeah, but the benefits wouldn't be as good. So
that's true. Working at a hospital has really good health benefits, except for the mental health.
I would hope so. Hi, welcome to Johns Hopkins. We hope you enjoy working here. Here's our benefits plan. We have a killer life insurance plan, but absolutely no health care.
It's even funny because everybody at the hospital sees the doctors who like work in the OR. So they're like, "Oh, I've got to go see Dr. So-and-so about my wrist that hurt." And I'm just like, God, I want to have nothing to do with anybody at work outside of work. I want my work life to be so separate, but I can kind of see the benefit of like, if you work in the hospital and you can't get in touch with your doctor, all you have to do is like barge into the room and be like, stop this surgery. I need to talk to you. You've been avoiding my calls, Dr. So-and-so. It'd be a great way to get fired, but you definitely get noticed.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a nice, easy show this week. This is our last show of 2021, and yeah, it's been a year. Speaking just strictly from my perspective, I don't think I'm prepared to say that I've had a bad 2021. I mean, there's certainly been some roadblocks, like cancer, but I think. I think on the whole, I would call this year balanced for me. Like the good has been balanced out with the bad, and it hasn't been spectacular, but it hasn't been a total shit show for me like 2020 was. So, but yeah, that's just me. What about you, Kat? You eager to see 2021 pass, or?
I can't wait for this year to die in the dumpster fire that it has been. This has not been a great year for me. Not to bring the mood down or anything, but last year was horrible. This year has also been pretty horrible. It's had its ups, but it's also had some major downs. Some deaths in the family. Work is very stressful, as you can imagine. There's a lot of me consuming a lot of comfort media, which is definitely a podcast episode we've done. But a lot of consuming my favorite comfort media to sort of get through some days here. But mostly just snuggling with my cat and drinking some Japanese whiskey is what's getting me through the rest of this year.
All right. Well, but yeah, we got a rather easy episode to close out 2021 with. So for the past couple of episodes, we've been talking about our favorite things, and as we are in the holiday season, we thought it would be fun to talk about some of our favorite holiday specials. So that's going to be kind of fun. Mike, sadly, is not going to be joining us this week. He was struck with a case of Nurgle's rot, so he is currently convalescing and recovering. So we wish him a speedy recovery, and we'll see him next year.
Spam his Twitter and Facebook with well wishes and telling him how awesome he is.
Indeed, yes, do that. Uh, but anyway, so there is procedure to follow, but we are going to begin as always with Ask the Geek, and we got some fun questions here. So let's see here now. First question here. This one comes from Ori, and it is for me. And his question is, "What is my game of the year for 2021?" Okay. Let's see. If I had to pick my top 3 games for 2021, I would give honorable mention to Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Sadly disqualified for being remakes. Although I'm having a lot of fun playing through them, which is weird because I absolutely hated the original Diamond and Pearl on the DS. I did not have any fun with them, but I'm just having a blast with the remakes. Let's see, number 3 would be New Pokemon Snap. That's just a very, very fun, very chill game, very relaxing game to play. So, you know, sometimes if I'm just like having a rough day, I'll just fire that up and just, you know, zen out by taking pictures of Pokemon. So, yeah. Let's see. Number 2 game of the year. You know, I think I'd have to give it to Shin Megami Tensei 5. I'm having a real ton of fun with that game so far. I've never played any of the main series Shin Megami Tensei games before. I'd only ever played the Persona series, so this is my first real introduction to the core SMT series, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I'm loving the open world aesthetic, and loving the delving to the you know, the various religious mythologies that are showcased in the game. It's been real interesting. So that'd be my number 2 game of the year. Metroid Dread, hands down. I have not been that satisfied with a gaming experience in a very long time. And yes, Metroid's back with a vengeance with this one. I would call it the best Metroid game I've played since Super Metroid on the SNES. But just like that game was everything I wanted it to be and more. And so yeah, Metroid Dread, game of the year 2021. So yeah. And let's see here now. Next question here. This one comes from the name is Merkel, and their question is for both of us. And the question is, we did an episode about the possibility of superhero fatigue. Do we still stand by our feelings on that episode that we expressed in that episode, or have our opinions on superhero fatigue changed in the last couple of years? So, Kat, let's start with you. Are you feeling any signs of superhero fatigue?
I do not remember a few years ago what my opinion was. I'm sure my opinion was something along the lines of everything is superheroes and I'm kind of okay with it. I seem to remember thinking that way. Like, I'm not personally bothered by it, but it is not great that that's all people are coming out with, especially when you look at the number of superhero TV shows there are out there right now. I'm still okay with it. But I'm also not trying to consume every single piece of superhero media. I can't follow pretty much any television show anymore. So I'm not watching, trying to keep myself up on everything. It's just too hard. And I find that you don't get quite as fatigued if you don't try to keep up with it all. I mean, it might get annoying to see, like, okay, 2 more Spider-Man films coming out when we could have something that's not a superhero film, but I like those Spider-Man films and I can't wait for them. And I'm keeping up with like a couple of like the Disney Plus superhero shows, like Hawkeye. At the time of recording, Hawkeye is still pretty fresh and new, and I'm really enjoying that because it's bringing new stuff to the table. So I don't feel fatigued about it at all. But I will be very curious to see what does eventually rock the boat. What is going to be the thing that changes the game? Because, we went through all the vampire and werewolf movies, and then we got superheroes. And what is going to be the thing that upsets the game and is the next big craze? And I don't know that we're ever gonna, I don't see a light at the end of that tunnel, because Marvel has like a 6-year plan or whatever. They have crazy ideas they've got going on. They have years and years and years of films lined up and ready to announce. And as long as we keep spending money on it, they're going to keep making them. And I'm going to be that person who keeps spending my money on it because they keep churning out good product for the most part. So I don't feel personally fatigued, but I'm also not going out of my way to try and consume everything.
Okay. For me, I don't recall exactly what my feelings on superhero fatigue were at the time we recorded the episode, but I'll say that yeah, I'm personally feeling it. I think I'm basically checked out on superhero stuff. Because like, you know, I enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier for what it was, despite some issues. I still say that it could have been a couple episodes longer. I didn't like Loki, and like I haven't been able to muster up any excitement for any of the movies that have come out over the last couple of years. Like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals. Haven't been able to muster up any real excitement for any of those. I'm not really jazzed on any of the TV shows. So I think I'm at that point just where like I've been so saturated with it over the last couple of years that like I need something. I'm kind of where I was with Doctor Who after a while, where it had just been so all-consuming in my pop culture consumption that I kind of just like, okay, you know what, I'm tapped out. I need to change the pace. Would be interested to see what might happen that would rock the boat, because I was talking with a buddy of mine who's a film historian, and he said that that superhero movies are to us now what westerns were in like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. They were like the big all-consuming genre that all the big film studios were making. So it'd be interesting to kind of see because culture moves in cycles, what it is that supplants the superhero genre. So, but I'd say yeah, I'm kind of tapped out on superhero stuff for now. I don't know, maybe something will happen that'll reignite my interest, but yeah, right now I'm feeling the fatigue. All right, and our last question here comes from Tyler, frequent offender, and his question is for me. He says, I believe you mentioned that you are into the SCP Foundation. What are your top 5 favorite SCPs? So for those who don't know what he's talking about, the SCP Foundation is basically this online repository of paranormal fiction that is framed like there's this federal agency that gathers up all of these paranormal creatures and artifacts and catalogs them, and each entry is written like a report detailing like, okay, here's what this thing is, here's what its effects are, and here's how we contain it. And I just fell into a rabbit hole with this thing a few years ago, and just every now and then I'll go in and just browse through and just read some of these stories, some of which are quite frightening. So some of these people who write these things have very lucrative careers as horror writers if they would just pursue them. But let's see, my top 5 favorite. I don't recall the numbers off the top of my head, but my top 5 favorite are Cragglewood Park, which is this paranormal, the supernatural theme park that captures children and turns them into singing trees. The chair that if you sit in it transports you into an alternate dimension where you get to make a deal with the devil. My favorite highlight of that one is a lawyer sits in it and vanishes, and he comes back like 2 hours later with a letter written with like a 20-page contract that neither party has signed, and a signed handwritten note from the devil that says, "Please come back at any time. I haven't had so much fun in ages." Let's see, I like the never-ending pizza box, just because that's one of those things like I would love to have in my house. It's this pizza box. Every time you open it, it has a fresh, hot pizza of whatever your favorite style or make of pizza is. So I would love to have one of those in my house. Even though it would turn me into just the fattest of fat fucks, because I would just eat nothing but pizza. The machine gun that shoots human teeth, just because that's just saying that out loud is a word journey that like no one ever expects to go on.
I hate it, by the way, what you just said. Don't say that again.
the machine gun that shoots human teeth?
Yeah, that. Don't say that again. That's awful.
But my absolute favorite has to be the cyborg child, just because to read this story and the associated lore surrounding it, it's really heartbreaking, and it's like like this poor girl that gets turned into the cyborg is just like she's such a wilby, and it's like I want to just wrap my arms around, wrap her up in a blanket and give her a hug, even though all the metal implements in her would probably cut me to ribbons. But yeah, those are my top favorite SCPs. And yeah, machine gun that shoots human teeth. But yes, those are our Ask a Geek questions for this week. Thank you as always for sending them in. As always, you can send them to us through the email at drgonzo@nerdofthethird.power. We love getting your questions, love reading them on the air, and so yeah, get your questions in, and you just might get yours read on the show. And so, with that, it is now the holiday season. Christmas decorations are up, and along with Hanukkah and Kwanzaa decorations all going up, it's just a holiday season, a time for family and fun and friends and gifts and presents and all that good stuff. And we thought that it would be fun, as this is our last show of the year. We kind of like to do something holiday themed to close out the year with. And so we thought that for this week, we'd close out 2021 with another of our new semi-recurring segment, Our Favorite Things, and discuss our favorite holiday specials. So, yeah, the holiday specials, they're a yearly tradition. Everybody remembers, stuff like, the Rankin Bass Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or the animated Frosty the Snowman. Side note, I never understood why the fuck every time Frosty comes to life, he says happy birthday. That just seems so weird to me. But, yeah, we thought it'd be fun to discuss some of our favorite holiday specials. So, yeah, so for the purposes of this, we're counting a holiday special as any movie, episode of TV show, or special that has a distinct holiday theme to it. That the holiday theme is central to that episode. So, Kat, why don't we start with you? What's your favorite holiday show?
Okay, so I had wanted to talk about something, and then Gonzo was like, I'm going to talk about this. So then I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to talk about some Christmas episodes of The West Wing. Because The West Wing, if you've never watched it, it does, for the first couple of seasons, some really gut-punching, emotionally fulfilling Christmas episodes. Sorry, I'm really phlegmy today. And literally somebody won an Emmy. One of the actors won an Emmy for the performance of one of these Christmas episodes. So instead of talking about an animated something or anything like that, or some other kind of movie that you would typically think Kat's going to talk about this or that, I want to talk to you about season 1 Christmas episode of The West Wing, the episode titled In Excelsis Deo, which it is so heartbreaking. If you don't know it, there's this angry guy named Toby who works in the White House. And in this particular episode, he is contacted by the police because there is somebody with his name, somebody who they found a body, and they found his name on the person's coat. So they contacted him to see if it was somebody that he knew, and it turned out to be a homeless veteran of the Korean War. And he told the police that this was a coat that oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm so phlegmy and gross. I can't get my throat clear. So let me take that a bit back. So this particular episode, Toby is contacted by the police because they have found a body of somebody, and that person was wearing a coat that had his name on it. And he gets back in touch with the police and finds out that this was a coat that he had donated to Goodwill, and the person that they had found dead was actually a Korean War veteran who died homeless on the street. And Toby, it gets under his skin that here at this most beautiful time of year, that somebody who served the country dies alone. And he does this whole big thing where he secretly arranges a funeral for this guy, buried at Arlington, full military dress. They do the firing of the guns and everything. Nobody attends it except for him and one other person. And it is so sweet and so sentimental, but so heartbreaking at the same time. And while all of that little storyline is going on, the president's secretary is talking about how, like, everyone's trying to get all geared up for the holidays, but she always gets depressed around the holidays because she lost both of her sons at the holidays. So you have these two incredibly sad stories sort of converging together to, just sort of like these the secretary and Toby sort of like bond together at this time over how sad these holidays are. And they just give this really nice funeral for this homeless guy. And the president's like, I arranged a full military funeral for who now? Because Toby had like done it all under the president's name. And it's just so sweet and just gut punching and beautiful. Absolutely. Just like an actually genuinely meaningful and, like, again, really heart-wrenching look at several very dark realities that people have to go through during the holidays, because not everybody gets to have a nice, cheerful holiday. And I'm so sorry that I led with this one and I'm really bringing my own mood down. But, like, it's just sort of a sad reality that not everybody gets a happy holiday. And here's one guy who, in, just an episode of The West Wing, chose to do something meaningful for a total stranger. That's the reason for the season for him.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. That's definitely gonna be a hard act to follow.
Sorry. Go ahead and talk about the Muppet Christmas Carol.
Well, yeah, go ahead and spoil it. Yeah, that's my pick.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol is my absolute favorite Christmas movie. It's a tradition in my house that we watch it every year on Christmas Eve. And it's also they're not here, they'd back me up. It's also Sky Blaze's favorite holiday movie. And one of the things that I absolutely love about it is, first off, all of Scrooge's dialogue, except for one reference to a rubber chicken, is accurate to the book. This is one of the most book accurate versions of A Christmas Carol that you can see. But the other is, like, this movie is absolutely carried by the performance of Sir Michael Caine, who, like, you can tell when you're watching a Muppet production whether someone is acting if this is probably not gonna make any sense, is acting with the Muppets or acting at the Muppets. Mm-hmm. And Michael Caine is the most crystallized example of acting with the Muppets that I have ever seen. He actually once said in an interview that the trick to being in a Muppet production is to regard the Muppets as though they were players in the Royal Shakespeare Company. And, like, he absolutely carries that through this film. Even when the Muppets, even when Gonzo and Rizzo or the other Muppets are, being absolutely real, like, silly and weird like Muppets tend to do, he just carries his role of his film with such dignity. He's also to my mind the absolute perfect Scrooge, because he carries in this performance this nice balance of, like, the angry, acerbic bah humbug, but also you can tell that there's, like, some kind of inner pain inside of him that he's kind of trying to keep hidden, and that gets brought out beautifully in the Ghost of Christmas Past segment, particularly in a song that unfortunately wound up getting cut in the home video release, but I think was restored in the version on Disney Plus. It's called "The Love Is Gone," and it's basically a song sung by so in the original in the story, Scrooge was at one point engaged to be married to a young woman named Belle, but he got so wrapped up in trying to grow his business and make money that he wound up losing sight of his relationship with this woman. And this song, "The Love Is Gone," is basically her breaking up with him and leaving him, and it's just an absolutely heartbreaking song. And it's just there's so much about this film. I think really what it has that I don't see in a whole lot of other versions of Christmas Carol is it has heart. when Love Is Gone is being sung, you feel Scrooge's sadness. When the Ghost of Christmas Present is moving about the city with Scrooge and showing him how people celebrate Christmas, and he's laughing and being jolly, you're laughing and being jolly with him. And when you find out that Tiny Tim, who in this version is played by Kermit's nephew Robin, has died, you're just like, it just breaks your heart. And it's like it's one of those films. It's like, it's just so perfect and so put together that it's hard to really define what makes it so. It just is a great film. It's hard to define why it's great. It just simply is, if that makes any sense.
It's also genuinely one of the most accurate to the novels in terms of like dialogue, but also in like the true spirit of it. It's like it's of all other adaptations of A Christmas Carol, this is like the one. It's the best one. And like, especially for our generation, we kind of grew up on it, we're never gonna see any other version that will match in terms of what we want out of The Christmas Carol compared to this one. Nothing will ever come close. We are we have so much joy and those rose-colored glasses, but it holds up so well. We love this version. Our generation and every other generation that comes after us love this version. This will be the only version of A Christmas Carol we will ever accept ever again.
They managed to keep this accuracy and this heart while still having the trademark silliness of the Muppets. Like, there's except for a brief bit at the end when the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come arrives, there's always these moments to kind of break up the seriousness and the heavy emotion with Gonzo and Rizzo just being stupid. Like, one of my favorite jokes is when they're trying to sneak into Scrooge's house and Rizzo's standing on top of the fence and Gonzo's like, yeah, just jump, I'll catch you. And Rizzo, he's like, God save my little broken body, and he jumps and Gonzo doesn't catch him. He's like, oh, hey, I missed. And Rizzo's like, oh, wait, I forget, I left my jelly beans on the other side of the fence. And then he just crawls between the bars and back, and Gonzo's like, you are such an idiot.
Yeah, it's just like the best version of it we're ever gonna get. It makes it accessible to children without being boring, which I think if you were to present like a completely book accurate version of A Christmas Carol, I think a lot of people would find it kind of boring. Also, like, we don't do scary stories about Christmas anymore. We don't do like ghost stories for Christmas times. That's not really like a tradition anymore, and I really think we should bring it back. So to have like something that was supposed to be a scary story as a Christmas story, I just think doesn't really vibe with how we roll nowadays, as the young kids say. So this makes it a piece of very old traditional literature and makes it completely accessible to young people by having Kermit the Frog in it, and it just could not be better.
And to do without dumbing down the story or making it like pedantic or stupid. This is a genuine family film. This is a film for the whole family. Like, I feel like to call it a kids movie is not really doing it justice. It's a true family film.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that's my favorite Christmas show. And then there was another one that I was going to talk about for my backup. I was going to talk about the OG Grinch, but then I was flipping through Tubi, and I found a TV show from my childhood that has a Christmas episode that I really loved growing up, and it still holds up. And it's a show called Life with Louie, and it's based on the stand-up comedy of Louie Anderson. And it's basically about his childhood when he was a little kid. And the episode, I don't remember off the top of my head what it was called, but basically, young Louie discovers, this old lady who lives in his neighborhood who, she never puts up Christmas decorations. No one ever comes to see her. She never puts up a Christmas tree. No, she doesn't, no one ever, and he gets this idea in his head that, she's kind of, her family's forgotten her. No one comes to see her for Christmas, so she must be really lonely. So he gets the whole neighborhood to come together to put up a Christmas tree for her and decorate her house and set up this really nice and lovely Christmas. And she comes home to this surprise Christmas party. And the joke is that the reason why she never did anything for Christmas is because she's Jewish. but it's just a nice little, a little heartwarming story about this kid who, even though he's he's a little misguided and kind of needs to stop and think about why things might be the way they are, just wants to do something nice for somebody, and it's one of those stories that, like, I feel like you don't really see a whole lot of in a lot of Christmas shows. It seems to me like we've kind of gotten, not to put it too bluntly, cynical about the holidays. We get all kind of wrapped up in the, I've got to get gifts for this for this person, this person, this person. I've got to, where am I going to find the time and the money to do the shopping? I got to plan the party. I got to arrange for vacation plans. That, we kind of, I feel like modern media has kind of gotten so wrapped up in making fun of all that we've kind of lost the heart and the sentiment of the season. If that makes any real sense.
The holidays are very stressful. God, I cannot talk. I have so much stuff running down the back of my throat. Yeah, I mean, the holidays are really stressful, and we have a lot of media now that really leans into how stressful it is. Just think of the movie Jingle All the Way, which honestly one of us should have picked. No, it's terrible.
I guarantee you, if Mike were here, that would have been the one he picked.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's good. But yeah, like we have a lot of media that tells us how stressful the holidays are and how difficult things are. And sometimes it's just really nice to just kick back and think about how simple it could be,
Sorry, I had my brother stepped in. We had to work out. He had an emergency, had to duck out, so he was just letting me know that he was going.
Oh, cool.
All right. Yeah, like I feel like we could just kind of get wrapped up in how stressful things are that we kind of forget, like, to actually take the time to kind of, like, appreciate the reason for the season, as it were. So so that's one of my backups. So Kat, what about you? What's another holiday show that you really enjoy?
Okay, I'm going to talk about another episode of The West Wing. That was my second favorite Christmas episode of The West Wing. This one's my actual favorite Christmas episode of The West Wing. And again, it's really heavy. I really enjoyed the early seasons for the way that they chose to. They always have like a little side story that's going on that is a little bit lighter, but then like the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the episodes are just gut-wrenching and heartfelt. And difficult. They're very difficult topics. And this particular topic in the episode Noel, which is from season 2. So the setup for spoilers for a show that's been out for this long, but at the end of season 1, a couple of the characters are victims of an attack, and a couple of the characters get shot. And one of the characters, Josh, almost dies. He comes very close to dying. So this episode, Noel, deals with him during these holidays, and there's music and there's lights and all this stuff's going on, and it's very busy around the White House, and he's just getting angrier and angrier and like kind of just going a little bit crazy. And everybody's like, what is your deal? And you see him like back and forth, like episodes with like little scenes of him with his therapist, and throughout the episode it finally breaks down that like as he's hearing bells in music and like performers and carolers and stuff, it is making him think of gunfire, and he's diagnosed with PTSD. And this was made in a time where people didn't really talk about PTSD outside of a like military scenario. Like we didn't really talk about PTSD as a society for quite some time, really. And this was an episode that was a little bit ahead of its time in that here's a guy he was not a soldier. He wasn't coming back from a war, but he had such a traumatic experience that he was genuinely suffering and needed to make a change before it totally wrecked his life. And I just think what a crazy thing to talk about for a Christmas episode, because he's talking about like all these things that happen to him around Christmas and how like this particular song that he loves makes him feel. But in the end, it's like he's really struggling because this thing that he loves Christmas time. He loves this music. And it's hurting him to be around because of like every time he hears bells, all he hears in his head is gunfire. And that is such a messed up thing, but it's such an interesting thing to talk about in terms of a holiday or a Christmas episode, because it's once again, not everybody has a happy holiday. People have a lot of trauma that they personally need to work through. And I thought that this was just such a neat thing to be addressed on this, just like on a TV show like this. This was just such, you wouldn't expect, I mean, it's the West Wing, so they do a lot of stuff like that. They do a lot of things that other TV shows would never talk about. But I just thought that was such a cool thing to talk about. And it's such a beautiful episode. It really is. There's one of the other characters is talking to Josh, and he gives him a big speech about asking for help. And if you've ever heard there's always a little story that goes around about a man in a hole and how like somebody trying to offer somebody help to get out of the hole he's in. And the best thing you can do is like, hey, you know the story? Do you know what I'm talking about? The man in the hole.
I've heard several different man in the hole stories.
It's the story where like a man is crying out for help because he's trapped inside of a hole, and somebody else jumps into the hole with him. And he's like, "What are you doing? Now we're both in the hole." And the second guy is like, "Yeah, but I've been here before, and I know how to get out of it." And that's one of the like the big speeches that happens in this episode is, you know, Josh finally like asking for help and getting, you know, support, which not everybody who goes through trauma actually gets support, which is a really terrible thing to think about. And I'm sorry once again that I'm bringing the mood down with episodes of The West Wing, but they're just so heartfelt. And even though they sound very sad and they're very emotive, they have such incredible depth and meaning to them that we just don't put into other Christmas episodes or like media that we consume specifically made for this time of year. We don't put that into other things because it's sad. And these episodes of The West Wing are taking sad things and resolving them and giving them resolutions that are very meaningful and heartfelt and sweet and good. And I think that is such an interesting message that this show chose to send, is that like it doesn't have to be clean cut. It doesn't have to be the fat man in the red suit. It doesn't have to be cookies and presents for you to derive the reason for the season, for you to get something out of the holidays.
So now I'm tempted to try and one up you on the depressing Christmas stories and talk about Death Takes a Holiday from MASH, but which is honestly a great episode. If you want to go check it out, like I said, it's from MASH and it's called Death Takes a Holiday. But now I'm actually gonna swing things back to a happy note.
Thank God.
By talking about another one of my favorite and traditional holiday specials, and it's Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, which is actually the very first episode of The Simpsons broadcast on television. And I love this episode so much because it has that brilliance of the early Simpsons writing, where it lampoons its subject matter, in this case Christmas specials, while at the same time playing the tropes straight and heartfelt. So the plot of the episode, you know, it's one of those stock Christmas special plots. Homer is expecting to get a big Christmas bonus, which he doesn't get, and the money that they had to save, that they had already saved for Christmas presents, winds up having to be used on a tattoo removal because Bart went and got himself a tattoo.
One does.
Yeah, as 10-year-olds did in the 90s. And so now Homer has to try and put up this facade that everything's all right, and he's going to give his family a big Christmas. and while still struggling with the fact that, he doesn't have this money. So he winds up taking a job as a mall Santa. And he winds up getting discovered by Bart, who, does the stereotypical kid thing. I dare you to sit on his lap. Well, I dare you to pull his beard. And there's a great line where Homer is telling Bart that, like, look, we don't have money for Christmas presents. We're not going to have a big Christmas this year. And Bart says, if TV has taught me anything, it's that there's going to be a Christmas miracle that's going to change our lives for the better. It happened to the Smurfs, it happened to Snoopy, and it's going to happen to us. So they wind up going to the dog track because they discover that one of the dogs is named Santa's Little Helper. So they think that that's a sign that they need to bet on this dog and win money for Christmas presents. But the dog loses. So the episode ends with Homer and Bart kind of despondent in the parking lot, and Bart going, "I didn't think it was possible, but I guess TV has betrayed me."
Oh no.
And the dog winds up, the dog they bet on winds up getting, kicked out, and abandoned by its owner. And it pads up to them, and they're like, Bart's like, can we keep him? Can we take him home? He's all alone. And Homer's like, oh, this dog's stupid. He's a failure. He's a loser. And then the dog licks his face, and Homer's like, he's a Simpson. So they take him home, and Homer's like, trying to explain, the situation, why there's no money for Christmas presents, but, Bart's like, hey, look what Dad got us, a dog! And everyone just fawns over this dog, and Marge's like, oh, Homer, you brought us the greatest gift of Christmas present of all, something to share our love, and frighten away prowlers. And it's such, The Simpsons gets a lot of crap for being not nearly as for being basically pretty much bad for the last couple of decades, but this Christmas episode is just such a perfect crystallization of those early years of the quality of the writing, and it manages to strike that beautiful balance of skewering the normal tropes that you see in your average Christmas special while also playing them straight and being heartfelt about it. And it is to me one of the greatest half-hour Christmas specials ever written. So that's another one of my favorite Christmas specials. Kat, do you have another favorite you want to talk about? And I'm going to put my foot down. You're not allowed to talk about another episode of The West Wing.
No, I only had two. Oh my gosh. I have I have a love-hate relationship with the old Rankin Bass ones, but because this is supposed to be the things we love, I won't talk about the things I don't like. I love the Rankin Bass Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and there is no particularly good reason for it. I like the music in that one a lot, but it's really because the bad guy is named Burgermeister Meister Burger. And that's like my main love of it, because I of course I watched this as a small child, and like it's just one of those things that pops in my head every once in a while. And when the Burgermeister Meister Burger, you have to say it out loud. Like, you can't just think that, you have to say it. You have to have the concept of a character named Burgermeister Meister Burger. That can't just sit in your brain. You have to say it out loud. But I really like that one. I thought that one was pretty cute. It doesn't have anything I don't particularly like in it, compared to some of the other ones. Again, I think that the numbers are pretty catchy. All the characters are really cute and fun. It has a villain with the most ridiculous name who just hates toys because he's fell on a toy one time and then decided that nobody could ever have toys again.
There's another Rankin Bass special that I remember really enjoying as a child, and it's I think it's called The First White Christmas, and it's about this little shepherd boy who winds up losing his eyesight in a lightning storm, and he gets taken in by this nunnery, and one of the sisters takes a particular shine to him, and he hears this nun talking about the snowy Christmases that she had growing up. And so I think it's been years since I've seen it, but as I recall, he writes a letter to Santa asking for basically for her to have a white Christmas this year. And it was just a nice, sweet little special that I really loved growing up. And like I said, it's been years since I've seen it. I need to track it down again.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one.
Well, it's not one that got a lot of play basically. Because it's not it wasn't one that was iconic as like, Jack Frost or Santa Claus is coming to town or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It's very much the one of the forgotten Rankin Bass Christmas specials, but it was one of my favorites growing up. Now I'll tell you, speaking about Christmas films that are forgotten, or in this case get a lot of what I feel is undeserved hate, I am one of the few people I know who unironically loves the Jim Carrey How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
I think that is an endlessly quotable movie that I have never desired to watch. I've never watched it because I just could not bring myself to do it, but I love all the things I see quoted from it, because obviously, like, the Grinch is a really relatable character for some people. And there's a lot of quippy dialogue that I think is really fun.
Yeah, it's such a great movie, and it does something that I never thought was possible until I saw this movie. It gives the Grinch a backstory and a reason for why he hates Christmas that fits with his character and with the setting that he's in, without it being like, a total ass pull, which is kind of how I felt about the DreamWorks, not the DreamWorks, what's DreamWorks? Whatever company did the Grinch movie that came out a couple years ago, where the Grinch hates Christmas just because he's lonely. Okay, well, he's also an asshole in that movie, so the one leads to the other. But it's got a movie that's just that underneath all the silliness, as the Grinch is played to perfection by Jim Carrey. I am amazed that he was able to wear that makeup and that facial prosthetic and still have like all the elasticity in his face that is his trademark. But it's a movie that underneath all that silliness still has a lot of heart to it, and I still get teared up at the end of the film where Cindy Lou Who has come up onto the mountain on Christmas morning to see him, just because nobody should be alone on Christmas.
Aww.
I don't understand why this movie gets so much hate, but like it's a movie that I unironically love, and like Muppet Christmas Carol, it's one that I watch every year. So
I think there are a lot of people who like it. I think there's more people who like it than they're willing to admit.
Well, yeah, we're a no shame place here. So if you like the Jim Carrey Grinch, sound off. Let me know I'm not alone. So, what about you? Any other Christmas shows or movies that you particularly enjoy?
I mean, I'll always watch the Peanuts Christmas, and quote that one every once in a while.
Oh yeah, Charlie Brown Christmas. That's
yes.
Another one that I grew up with.
Yes.
Like,
I think that one has permeated pop culture so much. First, the music. The music is one of the few just animated Christmas films where you will go to a store and hear the soundtrack being played in the store. Because the music is so iconic.
And what's ironic is so much of the music that's in that special is not actually Christmas music.
I know.
Like the music that Schroeder plays on the stage and everybody's dancing. That's just the Linus and Lucy theme. That's got nothing to do with Christmas.
I think every time we see a kind of, lackluster little Christmas tree, we call it a Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
I have one of those.
like genuinely, if you have a little anemic looking Christmas tree, everybody thinks of the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. We think of the dances. We think of like Linus's speech in it. It's just a cute little film. It's just cute, and it's been around for so long. It's so ingrained in our pop culture now.
The sequel was dumb as hell, though. Yes, that special actually got a sequel.
Oh my god, I did not watch it.
Yeah, and it leaned very much into it was much more comedic than the first one was. There were two plot lines. One was Sally was angsting over the fact that she had a line in a play, in a Christmas play, and she goes to Charlie Brown for help. And she's like, "Well, okay, well, what's your line?" And she says, "Well, I'm an angel, and I basically stand on stage and I say hark, and then Harold Angel sings." And Charlie Brown's like, no, that is not remotely how that goes. So then the Christmas play comes up, and Sally goes up to say her line, and she says hockey stick, and thoroughly embarrasses herself. And then at the end of that plot line, Charlie Brown is trying to console her and, make her feel better. And there's a knock at the door, and he goes out and answers the door. And there's this kid and says, "Hi, my name's Harold Angel, and I'm here to see if Sally's all right." And then the other plot line followed Peppermint Patty, and ironically, both the plot lines centered around Christmas pageants. And in Patty's, she was a sheep, and she had she also couldn't remember her line, and she just wound up, instead of going up on stage and saying "bah," she made a whole bunch of random animal noises. It was a really stupid special.
That does sound very silly.
Yeah. Let's see, and then another one that I really loved, and this is probably going to show my age. But when I was in high school and college, I was really big into Boy Meets World, and they did a Christmas episode where Eric, the older brother, he got a job as a mall Santa, and he was, he just had so much fun, talking with the kids and playing Santa for them, until this one little boy, Tommy, comes up and sits on his knee. And Tommy's an orphan, and his Christmas wish is to have a family. And Eric is just like, he has this beautifully acted moment where he's sitting on a park bench, and he's really despondent, and, this is kind of skirting rule number one here, but he starts talking to God, and he's like, God, why does that little boy not have parents? How could that happen to this sweet little boy? And how come I only come to you when I have a problem, right? So, okay, you know what? I got this. I'll take care of this. I can be responsible for the happiness of one little boy. And so he picks up Tommy from the orphanage and brings him home to spend Christmas with his family. And Tommy actually winds up sticking around for a few episodes and becomes sort of Eric's one of those, adopted little brother programs. But it's just that moment with him on the bench is just so beautifully acted. Like oh God, what the hell is the actor's name? Shit, I gotta look this up. Just 1 second here. Will Friedle. Okay. Yeah, Will Friedle gets a lot of props for his voice acting, and deservedly so, but a lot of people also forget that he also did acting on television, and this is I think is his greatest moment as an actor was just that moment on the park bench. And it's just a real sweet and heartbreaking episode, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, that's really sweet. I don't remember ever seeing that episode.
Yeah, it was. I'm trying to see what the. Let me see if I can get the episode title for those who might want to look it up. Let's see. Santa's Little Helpers. So is the name of the episode. So yeah. But yeah, that's one of my favorite Christmas episodes. So but yeah, we still got a few minutes left. So any last Christmas shows, movies, or specials that you want to talk about?
No, I'm really tapped. I do enjoy Christmas time. But usually I am doing what I do best, which is I'll sit down and watch Lord of the Rings for Christmas time.
Well, I mean, Lord of the Rings is appropriate at any time of the year.
Yes, so. I don't need to justify watching Lord of the Rings, but it is something because I usually have a little bit of time off that I'll try and sit down and be like, well, I've got a day to burn. Here we go. Click.
So, and remember, Frodo carried the ring for all our sins.
Yes, that's what happened. That's definitely the theme of that movie.
But anyway, yeah, so sound off in the comments. What are some of your favorite holiday specials? Is there a particular Christmas movie or a Hanukkah special that you like? Are there any Kwanzaa specials that are worth checking out? We're always looking for some new stuff to check out, so sound off, let us know what are some of your favorite holiday shows. And with that is our last show of 2021. We are going to take now our customary holiday break, but we will see you guys in 2022. We hope that you guys have a happy holiday and a great new year. Here's hoping 2022 is a damn sight better than 2021 was. So we hope you guys have a happy holiday. Enjoy the season. We'll see you guys next year. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
Taka, play us out.